Iranian naval forces operating under the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps seized multiple small American naval craft after those vessels entered waters that Tehran asserts fall within its sovereign maritime boundaries off Farsi Island.
At 2:40 a.m., radar screens along the Gulf began to fill with small moving echoes. Not warships, not submarines, fishing boats, dozens of them. By 3:10 a.m., the operation had already started. Units of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy moved quietly out of Bandar Abbas and Qeshm Island under complete radio silence. Wooden dhows, fiberglass speedboats, and unmarked utility craft slipped into the two narrow shipping lanes of the Strait of Hormuz. They were not fishing. They were laying mines. Over the next 4 hours, nearly 300 naval mines were placed across 40 kilometers of water. Bottom mines, moored contact mines, and influence mines triggered by magnetic and acoustic signatures. Each vessel carried between 6 and 12 devices, rolled into the water using gravity ramps and manual winches. No dramatic explosions, no visible flashes. Just silent steel sinking into the world's most important oil choke point. American satellites saw increased small vessel traffic. Signals intelligence intercepted unusual encrypted bursts, but nothing clearly indicated a blockade. That changed at 5:18 a.m. The Liberian-flagged supertanker Ocean Crown, carrying 2 million barrels of crude, struck a bottom influence mine in the southern channel. The explosion tore open a 10-meter breach below the waterline. Fire alarms screamed. Within minutes, the crew abandoned ship. 7 minutes later, a Singaporean container vessel reported a secondary detonation in the northern lane. Damaged, but afloat. By 5:30, insurers classified the strait as an active war zone. All commercial traffic halted. 20% of the world's traded oil had just stopped moving. Oil prices surged from $72 to $98 in under 90 minutes. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway between Iran and Oman that connects the Persian Gulf to the open ocean, was effectively closed. And Tehran had done exactly what it had warned about for decades. While the mines sealed the water, a second layer of defense activated. 50 IRGC fast attack boats dispersed along the Iranian coastline from Bandar Abbas to Jask. These were not ordinary patrol craft. Many carried C-701 and Nasser anti-ship missiles. Others mounted rocket pods, heavy machine guns, and anti-armor weapons. Their doctrine was simple: swarm. Overwhelm defenses with numbers, close distance rapidly, fire from multiple angles. At the same time, coastal missile batteries powered up across hardened sites in the mountains. Mobile launchers equipped with Noor and Qadr anti-ship missiles repositioned between caves and reinforced bunkers. 3 Kilo-class submarines had departed port the previous evening. Their locations were unknown. The message was unmistakable. Even if mines were cleared, any vessel attempting transit would face submarines beneath the surface, missile batteries ashore, and high-speed attack boats on the water. The strait was not just blocked, it was defended. At 5:52 a.m. Gulf time, U.S. Central Command received executive authorization. Mission directive: reopen the strait, neutralize all threats, minimize civilian losses. The task force already present in the region included a carrier strike group centered on the USS Abraham Lincoln, multiple Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, a Virginia-class attack submarine, and 2 Avenger-class mine countermeasure ships staged outside the Gulf. But mine clearing could not begin while submarines remained active. A single torpedo could destroy a wooden-hulled minesweeper in seconds. The operation was divided into 4 sequential phases. Phase 1, eliminate submarine threat. Phase 2, suppress coastal missile batteries. Phase 3, break fast attack boat swarm capability. Phase 4, clear navigational corridors through the minefields. The clock was already running. Global markets were sliding. Oil terminals across Asia and Europe were preparing emergency reserves. Tankers idled in open water awaiting instructions. The longer the strait remained closed, the greater the economic shock. At 6:10 a.m., 2 P-8A Poseidon Maritime Patrol aircraft began deploying sonobuoy fields across the strait. Dozens of passive acoustic sensors dropped into the water, listening for diesel signatures, propeller cavitation, battery hum. Kilo-class submarines running on battery power are among the quietest conventional submarines in existence, often described as black holes in sonar detection. For 45 minutes, nothing. Then buoy number 36 registered intermittent low-frequency noise. Diesel engines recharging batteries. Coordinates transmitted. An MH-60R Seahawk helicopter lifted from a nearby destroyer, carrying a Mark 54 lightweight torpedo. Within minutes, the torpedo entered the water and acquired its target. Impact confirmed. First submarine eliminated. The second contact came through magnetic anomaly detection. A distortion in Earth's magnetic field betrayed the steel hull operating near shallow waters close to Larak Island. 2 torpedoes deployed. Second submarine destroyed. The third submarine went silent. Completely silent. No emissions. No detectable propulsion noise. At 7:40 a.m., the accompanying Virginia-class attack submarine received orders. Hunter-killer engagement authorized. The American submarine descended below 150 meters, reduced speed to near silence, and began a slow, methodical search pattern. Inside the control room, movement was minimal. Voices reduced to whispers. For nearly 2 hours, sonar operators listened to the ocean. At 9:32 a.m., faint broadband noise. Classification: probable hostile submarine. Weapons free. A Mark 48 AD-cap torpedo exited the tube under wire guidance. Moments later, the enemy sonar team detected the launch and attempted emergency maneuvers. Too late. The torpedo accelerated at over 50 knots. Terminal detonation. Third submarine destroyed. In less than 4 hours, Iran's entire operational submarine presence in the strait had been eliminated. The water was still filled with mines, but now the clearing could begin. Silencing the shore. With the submarine threat removed, attention shifted to land. 24 coastal missile launchers were positioned along Iran's mountainous shoreline. Many were mobile. Some were hidden inside reinforced caves carved into rock. Each battery was capable of firing anti-ship missiles across the narrow shipping lanes in minutes. Mine countermeasure ships could not operate safely under active missile threat. At 9:45 a.m., EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft began sweeping the coastline. Their mission was not to bomb first, but to listen. Radar emissions flickered to life. Fire control systems searching for targets. That was the mistake. Within seconds, AGM-88 HARM anti-radiation missiles launched from Super Hornets streaked toward those emissions at nearly twice the speed of sound. The missiles did not need visual confirmation. They rode the radar beams directly back to their source. 2 launchers destroyed in the first wave. But Iranian doctrine relied on mobility. After firing, trucks relocated within minutes, disappearing into mountain terrain. suppression required more than reaction. An E-2D Advanced Hawkeye established wide-area surveillance, while F-35C Lightning II stealth fighters moved closer to the coastline. Their distributed aperture systems detected the thermal bloom of missile engines the moment launchers attempted repositioning. Coordinates transmitted instantly. A GM-154 Joint Standoff Weapons followed. Over 90 minutes of coordinated strikes, 18 of 24 launchers were destroyed. Several detonated secondary explosions, indicating stored munitions. One battery managed to fire 2 missiles toward USS Mitchell during the exchange. Both were intercepted by SM-2 Block III interceptors before impact. 4 Tomahawk cruise missiles answered in return. That launcher site ceased to exist. By 11 a.m., the shoreline threat was either eliminated or suppressed deep inland. The strait was no longer under coastal missile dominance, but the fastest threat was just beginning. At 11:05 a.m., radar picked up high-speed surface contacts emerging from coves and inlets along the Iranian coast. Wave 1, 20 missile-armed fast attack boats. Wave 2, 30 high-speed gunboats and rocket craft accelerating behind them. Their objective was clear: overwhelm escorts protecting the slow-moving mine countermeasure ships before corridors could be cleared. E-2D Hawkeye aircraft detected the formation at 55 kilometers. 4 FA-18 Super Hornets diverted immediately. Harpoon anti-ship missiles would have been effective, but excessive for small fiberglass hulls. Instead, pilots opted for 20mm M61 Vulcan cannon strafing runs and precision-guided munitions designed for clustered targets. 8 boats were destroyed before reaching firing range. 12 remaining missile boats launched a total of 16 anti-ship missiles. Destroyers USS Mitchell and USS Delbert D. Black engaged instantly with layered defenses, SM-2 interceptors at range, followed by ESSM and rolling airframe missiles closer in. 14 missiles destroyed mid-air. 2 splashed harmlessly into open water after electronic interference disrupted guidance. Then Wave 2 arrived. 30 high-speed craft closing at over 45 knots. Attack helicopters lifted from the amphibious assault ship positioned south of the strait. A H-1Z Vipers armed with AGM-114 Hellfire missiles engaged targets in rapid succession. Explosions erupted across the waterline. One boat, however, slipped through. A PACAP-class craft maneuvered aggressively toward USS Dextrous, an Avenger-class mine countermeasure ship made primarily of wood and fiberglass to avoid triggering magnetic mines. At 800 meters, the boat opened fire with a heavy machine gun. Rounds struck Dextrous's hull. 2 sailors were injured by flying splinters, the only American casualties of the operation. Dextrous returned fire with its mounted .50 caliber machine gun while maneuvering evasively. Seconds later, a Hellfire missile from an orbiting Viper helicopter struck the attacking boat. Threat neutralized. In 12 intense minutes, 40 of 50 attack boats were destroyed. 10 retreated toward the coastline. No American warship was hit. The strait's surface threat had collapsed. Now came the slowest and most dangerous phase. At 11:40 a.m., USS Dextrous and USS Sentry advanced into the southern shipping channel at 5 knots. Walking speed. Their wooden hulls reduced magnetic signature, but that offered no protection against influence mines triggered by acoustic or pressure changes. Sonar systems began scanning the seabed. Every contact required classification. Metal debris, lost anchors, shipping containers. Then the first confirmed mine. 40 detected within the first hour. Behind them, MH-53E Sea Dragon helicopters deployed magnetic and acoustic sweep systems. Towed apparatus simulated the acoustic profile of a large tanker, intentionally triggering mines at safe distances. During one pass, a mine detonated just 200 meters from a Sea Dragon. A massive column of water erupted beneath the helicopter. The aircraft shuddered violently, dropping nearly 40 feet before the pilot regained control. Operations continued. Unmanned underwater vehicles, including knife-fish mine-hunting drones, scanned deeper sections using synthetic aperture sonar capable of identifying bottom influence mines invisible to surface systems. Once located, remotely operated vehicles attached shaped charges and destroyed mines individually. Above, MQ-8C Fire Scout drones scanned the water using airborne laser mine detection, identifying moored mines by shadow and reflection. The scale was enormous. 300 mines across 2 narrow channels. Total clearance would require weeks, but full clearance was not required immediately. Only safe corridors. A 500-meter wide lane through each channel would allow single-file tanker transit under escort. Crews worked with relentless precision. By 1:10 p.m., 160 mines had been detected. 120 were neutralized. 2 narrow corridors were declared operational. At 1:18 p.m., USS Delbert D. Black conducted the first controlled transit through the southern corridor. No detonation. At 1:23 p.m., a second vessel passed through the northern lane. Safe. 6 hours after the first tanker explosion, the Strait of Hormuz was navigable again, under military escort. Global oil markets began stabilizing within hours. The blockade designed to choke 20% of the world's oil supply had lasted less than a standard work shift. 6 hours that shook the world. By mid-afternoon, the operational picture was clear. 3 submarines destroyed, 40 fast attack boats eliminated, 18 coastal missile batteries destroyed, the remainder suppressed. 120 mines neutralized within the first operational window. 2 safe transit corridors opened. No U.S. ships lost, no aircraft downed, 2 sailors wounded. Commercial impact had been severe but brief. 1 tanker sunk, 1 container ship damaged. Oil spiked nearly 30% before stabilizing once escorted transits resumed. The Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly 1/5 of global oil flows, had been closed at 5:20 in the morning. By 1:23 in the afternoon, it was functionally open. Not fully cleared, but open. The remaining mines would take weeks to remove entirely. Mine warfare is slow, deliberate, and unforgiving. Every contact must be inspected, every object classified, every detonation controlled. But the strategic objective had already been achieved. The chokehold had been broken. On paper, the plan was formidable. Layered defenses, mines to deny entry, submarines to strike unseen, missile batteries to punish surface ships, swarm boats to overwhelm close defenses. It was asymmetric warfare built for narrow waters, but it depended on time. Time for markets to panic, time for global pressure to mount, time for political fracture. Instead, rapid sequencing neutralized each layer before it could reinforce the others. Submarines removed first, eliminating underwater ambush risk. Missile batteries suppressed, protecting airspace and clearing operations. Swarm neutralized, preserving fragile mine countermeasure ships. Only then did minesweeping begin. The operation did not attempt to clear all 300 mines in 6 hours. That would have been impossible. It focused on creating 2 narrow corridors sufficient for escorted transit. Precision, not perfection. That distinction mattered. The Strait of Hormuz is only 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. The designated shipping lanes are far narrower. Geography favors the defender. For decades, the threat of closure has been a cornerstone of Iranian deterrence strategy, but deterrence depends on credibility. What unfolded that morning demonstrated 2 realities. First, closing the strait is possible. Second, holding it closed is exponentially harder. Mine warfare can disrupt shipping instantly. It cannot sustain a blockade against coordinated naval, air, and undersea dominance without prolonged escalation. The economic shock lasted hours. The military consequences lasted years. Replacing submarines, rebuilding missile stockpiles, reconstructing fast attack flotillas, these are not short-term efforts. The blockade consumed assets accumulated over decades and achieved less than a single day of leverage. Inside the mine countermeasure ships, crews worked knowing that every meter forward could trigger an explosion beneath their hull. These are the smallest combat vessels in the fleet. No armor, no missile shields, only sonar, drones, and discipline. On destroyers, radar operators tracked dozens of inbound threats simultaneously. In submarines, sonar technicians listened for faint anomalies in the ocean's noise. In aircraft overhead, pilots made split-second decisions balancing cost, speed, and survivability. Modern naval warfare is often described in terms of systems, missiles, drones, radar networks, but it still comes down to individuals executing under pressure. 6 hours, hundreds of decisions, each one compounding. The strait was never just about oil. It was about leverage, about demonstrating that global supply chains can be disrupted overnight, and about testing whether that disruption could be sustained. For 6 hours, the world watched markets fluctuate and analysts speculate. For 6 hours, uncertainty ruled. Then controlled convoys resumed. Insurance markets recalculated. Tankers moved again. The crisis shifted from existential shock to managed risk. That transition, from chaos to control, was the true objective of the counter-operation. Not total destruction, not escalation, restoration. Iran deployed approximately 300 mines across 40 kilometers of water, launched 50 fast attack boats in 2 waves, activated 24 coastal missile systems, committed 3 submarines. The closure lasted 6 hours. The reopening required coordinated air, sea, and undersea warfare in precise sequence. 20% of the world's oil supply paused briefly. Not 6 days, not 6 weeks, 6 hours. The Strait of Hormuz has long been described as the world's most dangerous bottleneck. That morning, it lived up to its reputation. But it also proved something else. Closing a choke point is an act. Holding it is a campaign. And campaigns demand endurance. The blockade was bold. It was layered. It was dramatic. It was short.